Welcome back to So Bad It's Good. We just heard from Tanya McCoy from White Lotus, who unfortunately, and I want you to know, this is going to be a spoiler heavy episode because we're going to start with White Lotus and we're going to work our way down. And I have the perfect person here to talk with me today. I was on her show a little bit ago and I needed to return the favor, but you know how I'm like, just whatever happens, I paste it all together and let's go, baby. So I need to introduce you to somebody. She is awesome. Her name is Christy, but the podcast, you guys, is called X Knows All. And it is worth your time, you guys. And people always, some people will be like, oh, I found so many good podcasts through you. And then I've gotten to like, why, are you nervous about that? I'm like, no, it's like the more the merrier. Like one person's thoughts are going to be different than the other person's thoughts. And that's what makes pop culture go round. That's the fascinating part of it, is that we all have a different take on these things. And I have somebody amazing to talk pop culture with today. So Christy from X Knows All, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I completely agree with what you were saying about, even though we all are in the same community of like pop culture, celebrity obsessed, Real Housewives obsessed, like one person's success doesn't take away from another's. It's like rising tides raise all ships.
That's like, I mean, I came from an acting background, and that was the thing of like, no, like, everybody's different, like everybody has their own special sauce. And the thing is, even as a listener, it's like you guys find the special sauce that you like on your burger or whatever you eat, but also there's I feel like we're in the golden age of not just television, White Lotus season 2 last night, but the golden age of podcasting as well. There's never been so many voices represented and so many different voices. And also I always love how podcasting is really, I feel like one of the best places where females get to have a voice. Do you find that to be true?
Yes. And I think that it's really nice having like just recently entered this community of podcasting.
Yeah, how long have you been doing this?
Honestly, like I think I have to date maybe like a little less, like 29 episodes, I think. And I started in December, like this time last year. And
so you're like a year anniversary of the podcast.
Yes. And I think when I first started doing it, I was also like, I do this as like a side project. It's mainly just a hobby. I have a full-time job. And
wait, what are these full-time jobs I keep hearing about?
Yeah, it's like, because the thing is, it's like I do my full-time job, like from like the normal working hours. And then I devote all my time to the podcast on the weekends or like at night or early mornings. But I found that the best part about being in this space is not even necessarily doing the research for the content that I'm putting out. It's mainly the people that I'm engaging with, either listeners of the podcast or people that are in the same space. That to me is the most fulfilling part.
It is, but like then it gets to a part where it's like you can't sometimes, and this is not I'm not complaining. Sometimes I can't keep up with it. And you are the person you've always been. Like I've always been a highly disorganized person, and I'm not saying so I'm still a highly disorganized person. I want to talk to everybody. I don't even mean just on the podcast, but I want to interact with every listener. I want to interact, and sometimes you just can't. But it is one of the coolest things in the world. That's what I love pop culture, is that like we might disagree on so many different things, religion, war, politics, all of this stuff. But what we can agree on sometimes is the most basic form, which is pop culture, of something that made our hearts feel full or our hearts filled with rage. How Lisa Rinna acted on Beverly Hills.
It always goes back to Rinna. It always goes back to Rinna.
It's like I'm obsessed. Or even like White Lotus. Tell me about like, where did you grow up and what was your relationship with pop culture growing up?
Yeah. So when I have been celebrity obsessed since I was a little kid, and also growing up in Orange County and being at like an hour away from LA, I was a kid. Like I did gymnastics, but like besides gymnastics, I was telling my mom like, oh, the Olsen twins are having this, like they're doing a meet and greet. Can you drive me to Burbank? Oh, Mom, Hillary Duff is going to be signing her album, Metamorphosis, in Burbank. Can you drive me up there? Mom, can I have the money to be a part of Mary-Kate and Ashley's fun club? Like I was always obsessed with celebrity pop cultures. And I used to subscribe to J14, like Tiger B, all those things.
Oh, like, man, I remember. I mean, dude, I grew up on a street in Kansas with all girls that would have like Bop and all these like magazines. And this is back in like New Kids on the Block were the boy band days, you guys, not Backstreet Boys, but they would each have their guy, and their walls would just be plastered of tear outs from Bop magazine and Sweet 16 or whatever the hell these magazines were. And you were one of these people that you were like, I have to be there.
100%. And like, I love that you brought up the magazine spread, because you would have the glossy posters and you would like, they would be folded like in the magazine, but you would fold out, it would be a huge poster
Yes.
and you put it on your ceiling or you put it on your wall. Like that is not a thing anymore. But I think for me, like I think we talked about this on my show too. Like we were the people that were like Perez Hilton obsessed, refreshing every moment of every day. So like, and I think it's so interesting to see how the pop culture sphere has like, it's available to everyone at this point because of social media.
Well, that's what, but yeah, totally. And by the way, because I was putting in an email to Demois about you, and I was talking to her on today's episode, and I was saying, like, in a way, it's so interesting how it's exploded in a way where even like Demois is a cultural figure herself now. And it's almost like building the perfect beast. Like Perez Hilton, okay, we know what didn't work with Perez, even though I was refreshing.
Obsessed.
Know 10 years later, so there's always this thing that we learn from them and we kind of build this perfect machine. But what I love about Demois is the secret identity. I love that we are all, I feel, Demois. You are, I am, like we are all guilty of trying to find the truth and the secret and all of these little hidden mysteries that Taylor Swift gives us every, that gets us excited. And it's nothing to be shameful about. Like, this is just stuff we like.
And I think it like people, and I'm sure like, I remember you mentioned this on my show when you would come on, is like, being a straight man from Kansas, I'm sure there was an expectation.
Hey, I told you, do not spread that rumor about me. Even though it's true, do not spread that I'm a straight male out there. If it gets out too far, I'm fucked. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's like, we're like told as a society, you should care about sports or music. But it's like, what about sports or music or pop culture is any less or more vapid than the other? Right.
Yeah,
it's just, it's an escapism at the end of the day.
Well, it's escapism and it's also a fandom. Whether it be sports, whether it be, you could be a fan of actually just like your friends too. There's a fandom there. There's always people that are at the hierarchy of that, but everything is a fandom, and I always wonder, somebody will write papers on this one day of like who we choose to stan and what draws somebody towards, and it, like, because I feel like Taylor Swift is, wow, at the top of her game in terms of not only her artistic output, but from a fandom level of like, what a way to play into your fandom with every release and like really when they say Taylor Army, I truly believe it's going to be an army one day.
Oh, I mean, like her following, I think I'm trying to remember like what other celebrity has had this type of trajectory, like the Beatles.
Well, no, and no, you know why not the Beatles? Because the Beatles, you guys, only lasted like 9 or 10 years. Like, remember from conception to with them playing in the the Beatles broke up, which, by the way, there's a great Peter Jackson 9-hour documentary on Disney Plus about the making of Let It Be. And it's just gorgeous. Like, Peter Jackson did such a great remastering job. But remember, it was like, but everything they did was perfect. Every jam, but this was only in a small amount of time. And we always think of the Beatles as forever because their music lasted forever. But Taylor Swift has already outlasted the Beatles in terms of artistic output. And I know I'm going to get hate emails about this, but it's true. You might not she might not have has as many bops in the early albums as she, learned her craft. But also, she was much younger when she started than the Beatles did. I mean, they started in their they started young, some of them, but they were in the Cavern Club getting their 10,000 hours,
Right. It's like that book, Malcolm Gladwell or whatever, that Outliers.
Exactly.
Book.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that was like the 10,000 hours or whatever. It's like you need to have a certain number of hours to excel in your craft. And I think, to your point, Taylor Swift has far exceeded that quantity of hours to where she is just untouchable.
I mean, that's what you look at these people and you're like, they're so used to doing this. The things that would give us agita or fear, it's like she can just sing at the drop of a hat. Like she could sing in front of a president and be fine. Like, this is like how they were built. And this is what these hours go into, just like podcasting. So what makes you, with a normal job a year ago, go, I've been a fan of all of these things for all my life. What made you or inspired you to be like, I need to pick up a mic and get my thoughts out there?
That's such a good question. I've told you so much about my friend Emily, who introduced me to you, and you're like your podcast and your Instagram.
What up, Emily? By
Is,
the way, before we came on, she goes, Emily's worried about you that you're not taking enough time off. And I was like, oh no. I say I hate when fans worry. I'm like, I love doing this. Let me do it until I die.
You're so goddamn good. It's like I want Ryan to like. It's like when Ariana Grande was at the height of her career and Scooter Braun was pushing her to death to like perform after Manchester. I'm like, just take a breath, Ariana. Like it's all in your best interest, but just know your content is.
By the way, Ryan, I just want to say 6:45 p.m. I just want to pull this as a pull quote. She compared me to Ariana Grande. That is how good, guys. Just if you didn't know you were listening to greatness, she just said I'm like Ariana Grande. But by the way, I'm also my own Scooter Braun because I'm the only one pushing me too. You know, like
100%.
But what about you though? Give me yours.
So the reason I bring up Emily is because when we both lived in San Francisco in 2018, we actually had a podcast. So this was like when everyone and their mother and every bachelor guy had a podcast, but we had a podcast and
that still kind of happens, Christy.
100%. But we had this podcast in SF where we talked about dating and relationships. Okay. And I was kind of like the producer of that. Like I edited the show. I taught myself how to use GarageBand. So it was like something that we did for like maybe a couple months. And then we just stopped doing it because it became too much work and was starting to impact our friendship. But now fast forward a couple years later, which is why I'm like so glad I could never, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Like I could never do a show with someone else because I just need full control over everything that goes on.
Well, I've had podcast breakups. I've podcasted with friends where I've had friendship breakups that's affected the pod. Like it's so weird, you guys, and you guys that don't have podcasts don't realize like it's things break up just like they do in real life. And it's like it's so weird when that happens with podcasting. Cause I assume if you have a job at like an accounting firm, you don't break up with your other accountants, like you're still able to do numbers. But with podcasting, when you're a team, it sometimes can be hard if you start to get off the same page.
Yeah. And it started to become one of those things where like, well, our entire relationship has now morphed into this business that to be clear, like we weren't making any money. It was strictly a hobby, but it started to become like, kind of like people would recognize us in San Francisco and people on dating apps would started to recognize me, like executives at my work started asking me about the podcast. And like the thing with that was it was centered around our lives, our personal lives, guys that we were hooking up with, guys that we were dating. We brought them on the show. Like it was crazy, but this is more of just, it's like I'm Jason.
Is that show still out there?
So it's still out in the archives.
What's it called?
It's really embarrassing. It's called Shade and Fog.
Shade and Fog.
It's so embarrassing. Like SF. And like,
so you guys stopped that podcast though. And then how long until you conceived of X Knows All, or even because when I did my podcast breakup, I took it was about the Kardashians. I took a lot of months I think it was like 6 months where I would guest on people's shows, but I didn't think I had it in me to do a solo show. I didn't think I could do a solo show. Like I didn't believe in myself. What made you decide to do it?
For me, I had moved during the pandemic. I was living in the city of San Francisco for like 5 years. And then I moved back down to Orange County where my parents lived, and like living in a city and then moving back to the suburbs of Southern California was like vastly different from like a lifestyle perspective, from like a friend's perspective. It just felt like very isolating. And also like we were stuck at home. And I felt like I just kind of got used to this like sedentary, isolating lifestyle because I wasn't going into the office. Everything was done via Zoom, whatever. So then I was like, I think the way for me to like reconnect with people while being in a suburban area is to do the podcast. And it was honestly just like a thing that I was like, how many people are going to listen? Like a couple of my friends and like people that are into pop culture from work. But like now it's actually become this thing with, granted, it's like my listenership is like a fraction of yours, like a very small fraction, but it feels like these people are like your friends, like I feel like I created a group of people.
No. That's what it is. I mean, it's like, that's it exactly that. And you've expressed my love for it to say it's when I go to a mic, I know who I'm talking to. Like I know the people that I hope I think it's those people. And so it does feel very personal. That's why, if you get a bad review, and by the way, what do we say when guests are on, you guys? You immediately go subscribe and hit 5 stars because they're doing such a service for us for free to come on and grace us with their appearance. But like it gets very personal with that because you will read a review or even, you'll have heavy commentary on something and your own opinion, which is what it's about, is having your own opinion. And some people take your opinion and they get so upset about it. Somebody got so upset about my opinion about Bethany Frankel the other day, and I felt so bad, but I was like, I'm glad you can have your opinion. I'm sorry that I might not agree with your I'm sorry I don't like your favorite, but it's never. It might come off as mean or malicious, but at the same time, like if you love pop culture, you're going to have an opinion on something. You're going to have an opinion on what you're watching, and not everything is for everyone. And it's just that simple. But I would never begrudge somebody else for liking somebody else.
I love that you're bringing up like just your thought process of like, my opinion is my own. We're free to discuss and have different opinions. And that's great. And I think it's really important to point out too. I think the way that when you and I hop on the mic, and we've done this for a while now, you far longer than me, and we make it seem like it's very seamless, right? Like people think, oh, you can plug in your mic through a USB, hook it up to your computer, press publish, and it's all good to go. Like the amount of time and effort and like blood, sweat, and tears and like personal equity that you have into the show is so monstrous. And like you said, not only is it just like you're not crunching numbers in Excel. This is your work, your opinions that you're putting out there. And then to have someone come out and critique it when all you're trying to do is be honest and like give out free content is the most upsetting thing. And I'm so sensitive. So it really bothers me.
I've had to stop. At times I've had to stop listening to or reading reviews, which sucks because some of it was like, I was like, well, listen, my thing on reviews, like if there's there was one review where it was like, oh, your mic is crackling so much, it's so annoying. And I was like, that's a great note. Like, I didn't realize that in the edit. And I was like, but then when they're like, I disagree with you fundamentally and I hate you and you're a loser, that sucks. Or like I was talking to the audience even about the Kanye stuff, I had fell into that trap of leaving a comment under Kanye's thing to get help. And I got death threats from it last week. And I was like, that's wild. People take this stuff. And I was like, but I have to remind myself, I chose to make that comment to get help. I choose to do this podcast. What is your worst night of podcasting? Mine is always this thing where I used to do these 6-hour episodes during the pandemic. And I would do it.
What if you have to go to the bathroom? What did you do?
No. I would pause and do my stuff. No, but they were like 6 hours. It would be 3 guests, my parents, people, old schoolers know this. And I would do it like a radio show, like a long form radio show you could listen to during the pandemic. Yeah. And I didn't have a good enough computer. So it would go right. I was processing on GarageBand and I lost 6 hours and that's, you're talking, collecting the interviews through the week and then the final edit, it's like 24 hours of work. And it would always be at 5 a.m. And this is when I also had a real job, but it was during the pandemic. So you'd have to like go, oh, it was the worst. What has your worst moment been so far podcasting?
Oh my God. First of all, when you were saying that, like my stomach actually dropped. Like that is horrible. I'm so sorry. Like when
GarageBand crashes, you're just like, oh.
It's funny you bring that up because I would say it happened this past week when I had Sophie Ross on.
By the way, she had Sophie Ross, our Monday co-host, every 2 weeks. She was on her podcast this week, which you got to go listen to. They talk about Charnas. They talk,
Tanks.
So, yeah. I haven't gotten to listen yet. What is your guys' opinion on Tinks?
Okay, so I was like, I think me and Sophie had different opinions because I was just like a basic bitch that really enjoyed her content. And Sophie came from the point of view of like, I've never found her relatable. I don't understand her shtick. I didn't find the content very value add for me. But I think it's interesting because we both come at it from different sides. But I think a lot of people are coming at like Redditors on Freier being like, oh, you guys are all blaming Ariel Charnas for having this like duplicitous lifestyle and her husband.
And by the way, you guys, Ariel Charnas, we talked about with Demois, but I did that interview on Thursday. So the article had not come out yet, you guys. And what I was telling the audience today on Monday's podcast that I would get into a little bit of Ariel Charnas, which I know this is how I always do, you guys. We'll get to White Lotus, I swear. But the Ariel Charnas thing, what we heard and then what actually happened were 2 different things. Can you explain to the audience?
Completely different things. Yeah. So people on Reddit were up in fire and flames for weeks ahead of this Business Insider article that was expected to drop last Thursday of last week. And so people are waiting every day that's passed. They're like, when is it going to drop? When is it going to drop? But people were making insane allegations to the effect of like nothing to even really do with her business and more with her relationship with her husband, who she shares 3 children with. So
they're divorced. He got to jail, all this stuff.
He's embezzling $3 to $5 million from something Navy. He cheats on her allegedly, not only just cheats on her, but he cheats on her allegedly with men. One of them being this guy named Preston Nicholas, who's like,
I didn't even know so they even went that specific.
Oh yeah. 2 men. One that
should we get rid of Reddit, by the way?
Reddit? Reddit is just where I get all my information. Like all my episodes are like research based. Like, and
Oh, dude, I've never, like, I have a Reddit account, I guess, but I don't go on it because I'm always scared of reading. Like, people have sent me stuff about myself where I was like, oh, that is weird. But then it's a great place for information, but sometimes it just gets so in the weeds. But you love it. It's your play.
I'm obsessed.
Playground.
Like, because I think that people just like us who are in such a niche community of like New York City influencer snark, Tink snark, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like very a niche community, like the podcasting community that all understand the inside jokes and everyone is so fucking funny. Like I'm obsessed. So people on Reddit were saying that like dropping names of like this like twink guy named Preston Nicholas who Brandon Charnas allegedly hooked up with.
And this is all alleged, you guys. This is alleged. I want to put that.
All alleged. Allegedly, he had slept with this guy who is husband with this woman named Stephanie Gottlieb, who's actually on Summer House, interestingly enough. Like all this crazy stuff with her husband coming out. And then when the Business Insider article drops, everyone's just waiting for this like flaming crazy article about Brandon
Which
Charnas,
is behind a paywall, by the way. They put the article behind a paywall.
Which was so genius. And basically what came out was that something Navy's business was falling to the ground, that she wasn't paying vendors, she wasn't paying her employees timely. She didn't want to know anything about the like profit and loss statement. Like all she wanted to like
seemed like she was over it.
She was completely over it. And I think people were really pissed off because they were like, this is why you don't believe Reddit, because we make a mountain out of a molehill. And then other people like Sophie, who brought up a really good point. She's like, okay, the article wasn't what we had expected. However, I think it's a scathing, egregious like mark on Ariel Charnas, considering that she portrays like she's such a wealthy, affluent person in New York City, which I'm sure she is to a degree, but she's toting Hermes bags, Birkin bags, Chanel, whatever. And she's also not paying vendors. Like, it's just not a good look.
But isn't that also the power of perception and how we want to come off as, I mean, and we're talking even not just celebrities. We're talking about me, even like when I used to have a personal account, like I would post, if I rarely post myself posing in pictures anymore, like, cause I get weird with how I look, but it's like when I did back in the old days, I would make sure it was a good photo that I was like, I'm comfortable. And this is not even face tuning, but we all are kind of guilty of this, but she takes it to such a degree. But do you think about, we always talk about journalistic integrity and responsibility and all of that. Where do you think that stands with podcasters? Like, should we have ethics and a certain way? And how do you go about that? In doing all of the research and going down these rabbit holes? I mean, Ariel Charnas was like, she is still guilty of being really snobby and show off,
shitty employer.
Shitty employer, all these things, but it wasn't to the degree that the, town square pitchfork mob wanted it to be. And we almost wanted to see this huge story that brought we wanted the insanity. We wanted the plot line of White Lotus with their story.
We do. And I think people almost wanted to see her fail because, to your point, she is this like aspirational type human. Like, she has money. She has 3 beautiful kids. They send them to private schools. Her husband is seeming like a doting husband. It's almost like you love to hate her because she's like something that maybe we aspire to be like secretly. I think that to your original question about like journalistic integrity and with podcasting and everything, I try really, like when I did the House of Hilton episode, which was to date my most like,
which by the way, episode. You guys, she does an amazing House of Hilton episode, which that's this book right here. The House of Hilton.
Of course you have it. Yeah.
By the way, I paid a pretty penny for this. This is, by the way, all you girls and guys out there, when you get drunk, you'll always go, I bought myself this crazy purse or this shoe. When I get drunk, I buy House of Hilton. Like, I was like, you know what? You deserve this, right? $40. You deserve House of Hilton. Like, that's
up without a badge.
I'm drunk. This is what I buy when I'm drunk. It's like shit like that.
I fucking your book,
dude. Oh my god, I was drunk at my parents' house on Saturday night after the Patreon live, you guys, and I'm really proud of myself. That was the other thing. Like, I don't have a lot of money, but I was like, I would buy myself a record, like a vinyl, because like I was like into collecting vinyl. And I was after the Patreon, everything had went good, and I was like, let's look at. And I had like Prince Greatest Hits 1 and 2 on there. Yeah. I had Jay-Z The Blueprint, and I was about to hit and then I was like, you know what? And I did. I walked away from the phone, but that is what I do when I get tipsy, and I'll buy myself vinyl or Bravo or pop culture related books.
No, I'm upset. What happened to your old studio, by the way? Did you move? Is
I
that
moved.
why?
Yeah, I moved.
Okay,
Yeah,
so okay, because I
yeah,
was like, I missed the old studio setup when you had literally every
yeah.
like
Everything.
Craig
Yeah, I
pillow
know. So,
talk.
well, yeah, I'm going. That'll be back eventually.
I was
When I get
loved
a new.
it.
Yeah, yeah. No.
That
Well,
it
that's
set the scene when I met you.
sorry. So no, totally. I miss it, and it'll be back. But okay, so
Okay,
we
journalistic
journalism
integrity.
integrity. Yeah.
Okay, yes. So when I did my House of Hilton episode, I made sure to be very, very pointed with how I was speaking about it because I know that Kathy Hilton, I mean, she's even looked at your shit. She's liked and commented on your shit.
Dude, did I tell you the other day? Well, I mean, I told the audience, but Rick Hilton liked one of my posts the other
Stop.
day. I don't follow Rick Hilton. I don't
Wait,
know
what?
Rick Hilton liked the photo I put up of Harry Dubin and Ramona making out.
Dang, it's like I know that they troll, like they're looking at it. So I was actually scared. I was like, they're gonna listen to it and then they're gonna send me a cease and desist. Like I was actually scared. So I had like a disclaimer up top when I'm talking about like really like serious allegations.
You're like, I'm full of shit. This
Yeah.
is a disclaimer. I'm a
Yeah.
loser. And
Literally, I'm like, I have nothing to my name, like whatever.
you can't take anything.
Yeah. So, but I think typically like I'll say it up top. This is all like alleged, but it's not a blind item podcast either. Like some people, when I first started, was like, "You're copying Beyond the Blinds," and I'm like, it's like literally like I don't even know how to read a blind item website. It's all just like I try to go with like research based like facts or stories that I read on Reddit, and I'll explicitly say this is from a user on Reddit. It's not factually like checked out, whatever. But yeah, I think it's a hard line to kind of edge because we're not backed by a publishing agency. We're not backed by anything. We're backed by me, myself, and I. So I don't know.
What was the most horrific? But I know this is going all over the place. But what was the most horrific item you found out about House of Hilton or in House of Hilton that you brought up on the episode? Just to tease the folks.
Yeah. So allegedly, based on the book, so they refer to the mother as Big Kathy, and then little Kathy as Kathy Hilton. They said that Big Kathy essentially, this is like so bad, but like push her daughter, like kind of like pimp them out almost because she wanted nothing more than to have these kids have wealth. And she wanted them to marry rich. And that was always the end all be all. It wasn't about education. It wasn't about being a good person. It was about pimping them out to rich husbands. So she would basically stop at nothing to get them to do that. And like there were allegations that she even like was teaching them how to perform like sexual acts at a very young age, such that they could like pleasure a man. And it's very explicit and very dark. And I think a lot of it makes, I mean, if you were to take those allegations as true, then it kind of makes sense why Kim Richards has suffered so much because she was not only a child star in Hollywood, but she also had a mother like Big Kathy. So it kind of all just, it's all in the
it
sauce.
Makes sense
like,
psychologically.
It makes
sense. And by the way, it also makes sense when you see how Kathy reacts to Kyle. You see how Kyle tries to go, Kyle is that person, not fully trying to escape the family, but trying to make her way, with Mauricio and the agency, which by the way, did you read that article today about the agency almost getting sued again?
Wait, no, because I want to hear your thoughts on this before you dive into that article, because a lot of people say that people shouldn't be getting mad at Mauricio because basically for anyone that's not familiar, Mauricio left Hilton and Highland, which is the Hilton real estate
which is Rick
agency,
Hilton's company. Yeah.
Right. To start his own practice, which now became the agency, which is like flourishing and now has a Netflix show, which we all know. So people were saying, kind of standing up for Mauricio, almost saying like, well, who can blame him? Like you're working your ass off at one company. They're not going to make you partner. So you go off and do your own venture, which is actually quite common in like many businesses, like accounting business, legal practice, whatever. So like, what side are you on if you think about the Mauricio versus Hilton? Like, do you think that Mauricio was valid? Like, I just feel like there's a lot of family tension and animosity between the Hiltons and the Umanskis simply because of that breakup.
I brought up the fact that Rick Hilton has never been forced to be on Beverly Hills once. He has not ever been. Ever. I think he was in it for a brief on a video thing of the holiday episode. Like there wasn't a holiday episode, but like what we did over Christmas, you saw Rick in the deep background of a scene, but it was nowhere like he does not have to play ball. But there was a LA Times article today. This is the headline. Will a legal saga over a $70 million Malibu mansion derail the star of buying Beverly Hills? And it's this whole article that came out today about Mauricio Umansky and the agency and all the lawsuits that they're in. And it's truly fascinating, you guys. I'll link to it in the show notes. But it really is interesting because they're saying like, he's doing deals with like the Saudis, he's doing and he's, overinflating the price of certain houses, this article alleges, and it is the LA Times. But I have to mention the LA Times, they must be secret like Beverly Hills Housewives fans because they broke 100%. The Girardi stuff.
Yes.
They broke there's never a week that goes by that the LA Times does not have it. And by the way, and I'm not talking like just small Us Weekly articles. I'm talking deep, in-depth reporting about these people.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I grew up in Orange County. Like LA Times is like our New York Times. It's the biggest publication on like arguably on the West Coast, maybe besides the Washington Post. But like that is actually salacious and incredible. Like I need to read this article.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to link to it in the article, but like so we can all catch up. But it's very interesting because Mauricio, in all like from the outside, which it's all about perception, Hollywood and pop culture, is that he's the best he's ever been. He has a Netflix series now that in no way is tied to Bravo, and it has his daughters in it. He was able to separate from Hilton and Highland, and he is a general bon vivant where we all think of him as the coolest house husband on Bravo because he's always like just being cool. But behind the scenes, mo money, mo problems. There seems to be lawsuits, Jelly. There seems, you never know. So I'll be very interested to see where this story goes. And I'm very curious too, if Kyle will definitely do another season of Beverly Hills, but at a certain point, I always wonder, just like the Kardashians, why keep going? Why is there I always like was talking with a guest last week, like, when would you stop? Like, when's I was talking to Kelly from Beyond the Blinds. I said, how much money would it take for you to stop podcasting and go, you know what? I'm just gonna because by the way, we're not doing this for money to begin with. But if you were, what is the dollar amount where you'd be like, I'm just going to go enjoy my life and go to the White Lotus hotels?
I think that too with Kyle Richards is people were saying on Reddit are theorizing that because Mauricio signed with Netflix for this show, that's probably why she was less like inhibited, or she was a little bit, she was less inhibited this season.
Yeah, she's like, we got that Netflix money now.
Exactly. I think that she saw that if this doesn't farewell for me, then I always have this backup with Mauricio now and my daughters. And I think she's trying to churn out like this like second wave of like maybe Nikki and Paris for like Farrah and Alexia.
Well, there's a second season of Paris Hilton's show, like you said. Like there is I always like, and also I swear to God, you guys, we will end with White Lotus, but now I'm just like, this is how conversations go. You get fascinated.
I'm so interested to hear about
what is your take on, the Kardashians? Because we talk about big families, and the Umanskis are becoming a Beverly Hills family. The Hiltons already were. House of Hilton was written a long time ago. But then you have the Kardashians who are, listen, I know you guys, a lot of you guys super hate them, and I'm in a love-hate with them, but I always say you cannot deny and you have to pay attention to their moves and their power. Where do you ever get into the weeds with these on any Reddits with Kardashians?
So it's one of those things where I've really like admired them from afar, just based on like the businesses that they've built. And I think that like no matter what you say about like Kim Kardashian, I've heard nothing but like incredible things about who she is as a professional, how she.
I hear she's always like, she's always a smile. We'll always take a picture with you.
Yes,
very
pleasant. She's pleasant and professional, and I love that she hasn't really let this get over her head. Like, and I think that I just like that she's kept humble throughout all this. I think it speaks a lot about how she was raised and just like her values. I will say that what they've done for like the body image movement for women in particular, and how interesting that they've been able to meld into their figures. And someone actually brought this up. I don't even know where I read this, but I thought it was such an amazing point that when they were in their like Black men era, when Kim was dating Kanye and Ray J, they were able to morph their bodies into this very voluptuous, curvy BBL type look.
They took the Big Butt Award away from J-Lo. I always say that as an example. J-Lo used to be the example of the big butt, and J-Lo's butt looks small compared to what the Kardashians did.
Exactly. Because what was that one movie she had with Ben Affleck? Not Jersey Girl. The other one.
Oh, Geely.
Remember? And like that movie poster when her ass was huge, and that was like so earth shocking for all of us, being like, this woman in her huge ass, and it was just
you guys don't remember. There used to like I always try to tell like people, the younger listeners, like that used to be a nightly joke on Letterman and Leno, where it's about J-Lo's ass. Like, Trey Parker and Matt Stone from South Park, these were like big jokes. And then the Kardashians kind of came in and were like, we're going to show you a big ass. And then they did what they did.
They swept us all off our feet, and they came up with this curvy look, which I love, because I felt like it shifted like the heroin chic Kate Moss era to a bit more like curvy, and all figures are welcome here. But then
I like that. Yeah.
What I found was really interesting is when Kim started dating like Pete Davidson, she's all of a sudden becoming this like anorexic looking queen,
and Chloe as well. Chloe as well, losing a lot of weight,
an extravagant, like an exorbitant amount of weight. And I think not only that, but people were actually theorizing like, okay, well, Kim's trying to stake herself up as more of a professional woman, whether it's in the criminal justice movement, whether she's trying Sky Ventures, she's trying to move into private equity. She's placing herself as a corporate almost icon in a way that has never been done before, from reality TV to fashion to now like corporate icon. And she's melding her body in parallel with that.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Theory.
So
I love that theory.
She wants a seat at the table just as much as she wanted a seat at the table when she was dating and Black men, right? And now she's dating white men, and now she's in Sky Ventures, and now she's a skinny white woman with blonde hair.
She keeps referring to Sky Ventures. You know, the private equity firm that she co-founded this past year is something that has not gotten written enough about, because it's truly the most fascinating part of her portfolio.
It is.
I'm telling, skims aside, this blows it away. I'm very curious to see their success, because who she teamed up with is one of the most successful people in equity investing. And I know that sounds a little nerdy, but it's true. And it's one of those things, like Bethany Frankel wants to be considered a business person. And for all intents and purposes, she is. She's on Shark Tank. She got Money Court. But Kim does her business a little bit more behind the curtains. Like the Kardashians are behind the curtains. Another theory I like is with the bodies is I always think of them as, you know, this is with the rise of social media,
right?
You know, it's like, to me, you know, like back in the days when De Niro or Tom Hanks would gain weight or lose weight for a role because they were trying to, you know, play Forrest Gump, or, you know, like
Castaway,
or like a De Niro and Raging Bull. I feel like that has jumped from, this is why movies aren't even as popular anymore, even the artistic ones, especially because that kind of body not dysmorphia, but challenging body types are being moved to social media influencers. You know, that's what we're considering the real, like, wow, she really De Niro'd this, you know, like, you know, we're watching these huge body transformations that we only used to see in film and TV. And we'd be like, holy shit, that's best actor of the year.
Such a good point.
Best actor of the year.
That's such a good point. And we saw that with the Maryland dress too. She's like, I lost 10 to 20 pounds because I needed to fit into the dress. And it's like, she equated it to like exactly what you're saying. Well, how is this any different than when like Tom Hanks loses a bunch of weight for his role in Castaway when he's stuck on a deserted island, which I think like there's something to be said about like her dedication to her craft. But I think like being a woman who grew up in like the
how do you feel as a woman? How do you feel as a woman when you see this stuff? I always think about, oh my God, remember that photo of Nicole Richie and
Lindsay Lohan?
Or just the Nicole Richie on the beach, just emaciated with the. Do you remember that period of pop culture? And it was like, I was, you know, like I'm a dude, I'm a big bone dude. Like I've been like up and down in weight in my life, but I remember seeing that and going like, oh my God, like this is so scary. And she had the biggest smile on her face, I believe, in this photo. I know
exactly.
Oh my God, it's like burned into my memory. How do you feel as a woman when you see these different bodies and different, you know, like, does it make you feel bad? I know this is a very personal question, but I think of this. Well, does it make you feel bad as a woman? Do you ever feel like I have to keep up with these Kardashians? I have to change who I am?
1,000 times over, yes. Like, especially, I think I've talked about this like with my therapist a lot too. I think my love for pop culture and my just insatiable like desire to want to know what's going on with all these celebrities, it actually probably made me a bit more skewed with like my body image and comparing it, because I was just so interested. Like my role model was Mary-Kate Olsen, and she got checked into rehab for anorexia in 2004. And like, no one even really knew what anorexia really, I mean, it wasn't talked about as frequently. I remember like Tracy Gold from Growing Pains.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
She had
There used to be this ABC sitcom called Growing Pains with Kirk Cameron, but the other
Leo DiCaprio.
And Leo DiCaprio on the last season was, they, you know, got brought in for all you geeks out there. But what's her name? What was her name from?
I think her name is Tracy Gold.
Tracy Gold was one of the first people when I was growing up that I was aware of an quote unquote eating disorder.
Yeah. And so for me, seeing Mary-Kate Olsen, who was like my idol back then, like having to see her struggle, and then also seeing plastered on magazines of Lindsay Lohan and Nicole Richie and like the Misha Barton, like it greatly impacted my relationship with food to like a mental, like a serious mental disorder, like later on in my life. And so I think like now as I've grown older and I've had the tools and like enough therapy to like break away from it, I can like, I'm so glad now that I have like the tools and like the look back to know what's healthy for my body and what's not. And like, and I'm a small girl, like I'm like 4'10" Asian girl, like I'm a tiny person. So it's like, I can't even imagine what people
Christy, do you ever worry though, that if pop culture can do this to you at a certain age, do you ever feel like, well, now I'm in too deep again? I'm starting to go towards old patterns when you're like, so, cause you live in this realm now. Like after you get off here, you'll probably be online looking at stories. Do you ever get worried of like, oh, it's like waving cocaine in front of a cocaine addict's face or something like that,
Yeah. I think I've just done so much like work on myself and gone through so much like intensive therapy to where I wouldn't, but you still
love it. That's what I love. You still love pop culture. Yeah.
I still love it. And I think that like, if I didn't know otherwise, and I didn't go through so much intense therapy as I did, it would be very incredibly triggering to watch it because, and I actually saw a BuzzFeed article where they talked about, they had this frame of, did you watch the Met Gala episodes of Kardashians? Have you been watching it?
Yeah.
When she was in the bustier and they were fitting her and the stylist goes,
I think I was like,
smaller.
Girl, smaller than a model, than a model, girl.
Yes. And people were pissed about it. They're like, this entire season has been recycled content of like commenting on weight, talking about how skinny mini you are. And like, I could see the delight in Chloe's eyes when Kim would tell her.
Oh, Kim looked jealous. Kim almost was like, girl, you got what? Like,
yeah. And she's like, Kendall and Kylie are worried about you. And like, it's like the delight that Chloe had in her eyes. It's like, I already know that look. And I know that's fuel for an eating disorder.
Oh, dude, I remember. Yeah. When I would lose weight and somebody would tell me that that was really like, oh, good. I've got like, I'm going the right path. And then you push harder. Like it's a hit of cocaine.
That's why like, I never comment on anyone's bodies, whether or not I see them fluctuate up or down. I just never comment because you have no idea what someone's going through. But I think to that point, I just hate that the way that there's so much extreme weight loss and they're not commenting on like, it just seems like they're doing it all naturally when
because we also know that there's allegations of using the diabetic drug, Ozempic, all that stuff. And what scares me, you guys, is I was talking about this with Maritza the other day was, I was like, it's like even my thinking at this age, I'm still like, I wish I could get on those. I wish I could afford Ozempic.
Me too.
I'd like to lose 2 pounds a week. Like, I mean, I was like, I'd like to take a diabetic drug. Do you know how warped that is when you say it out loud, but your thoughts are saying it,
It's my sister's a pharmacist and she goes, I prescribe Ozempic to my heart failure patients. Like it's a very intense drug. Like it's not, but people are like just normalizing it because all these influencers are getting their hands on it and a Kardashian. And this is what I'm saying. It's like, we only know about Ozempic because Kim Kardashian is allegedly on it. So it's like, this is what I'm talking about.
Can we figure out if Kim's invested in Ozempic at all? Like look at their investments is where we should that's where I always feel like we should head with anything is just look at their investments. Okay. So we're going to start talking about White Lotus 2. Okay. What is your relationship with what are you watching right now? Of course did you love White Lotus season 2? And did you love White Lotus season 1?
Obsessed. So I think White Lotus season 2 far surpassed my expectations. I thought it was far better than White Lotus season 1. When I thought White Lotus season 1 was fucking incredible. I remember my friend got married at the Four Seasons Maui, which is where they filmed season 1. And I was like so entranced by just like everything of the show. Like when I went there, I was just like seeing art imitate life. And then when season 2 came out, I think it's an incredible show. It kind of reminds me of like cinematic television, like back when there was no streaming services. Like we have to wait and everyone's talking about it and everyone's in like the Reddit threads and on Twitter.
And it's exciting, Bill. This is my favorite part of pop culture is that we all find something and it gives there's two different kinds. Like we were in the binging society, and Netflix, by the way, I've told you guys this before, is like going like, okay, we're going to stop binging because it's showing that people will binge and then get rid of us as a service. So now they're going back, or they're trying to go back where they'll hit us with like 4 episodes and then one each week. So you'll come back. But there is something great about building excitement week after week. Now, this is a risk. It's a gamble because the shows that it doesn't help, it sucks. But for White Lotus season 2, especially, people were like, if you ain't watching this show, what's wrong with you? And I will say,
what are you doing?
It went from each week in terms of ratings. I geek out about ratings. You saw where it started to where it ended. So where 2 weeks ago, it was at a record of 2.8 million. And this is just night of, you guys. This isn't like repeated viewing, streaming, and all this stuff. Last night's was 4.1. To go from 2.8 to 4.1
that's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
Plus, people are going to be watching this forever. But you're right. The emotional resonance this season 2 had, and I thought season 1 was genius.
Amazing. I didn't know it
so,
could be topped, and then it was.
Yeah. So on your Instagram today, which I want to give another shout out to, so you guys go follow her. X knows all. It's very simple. But in your story today, is this EJ Koba? Is this Erica or
Emily?
Is this your friend Emily?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll follow her back. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's obsessed.
So I'll say, why are you worried about me, Emily? White Lotus season finale. Spoilers ahead. She puts in her story. Now, did Daphne and Ethan smash? Daphne is the one that is married to the guy that used the prosthetic dong. What's his character's name?
Cameron.
Cameron, yeah. So Daphne and Ethan is the Asian characters that's with Aubrey Plaza, and they are in close to a sexless marriage. And what we find out 2 episodes ago, that there is a potential that prosthetic dong man and Aubrey Plaza potentially hooked up.
Yeah.
And it eats away at Ethan. You watch this eat away at, he can't focus on anything. Yeah. And then he finds out, Aubrey Plaza tells Ethan, you know what? We just kissed. Nothing else happened. We just kissed. Yep. And that's it. And he goes up to Daphne.
Daphne. Yeah.
He goes up to Daphne on the beach and tells her, and she goes, it's okay. She kind of like does her thing, like she did with Aubrey Plaza earlier in the season.
The same thing,
having her affair with the gym guy. Their kids, by the way, are obviously the gym trainer's kids. They're blonde hair.
Yeah,
that is a maybe just a theory, but they walk into the not the jungle, or like they walk into this wooded area where you kind of think, oh my God, are they going to go hook up? Which we never get that answer. But what do you think? Because you asked your followers this question. Did Daphne and Ethan smash? Do you think they did?
Yes, I think they did. And I think what I love about this show, again, I think what it goes back to what you were saying about typical event cinematic television, is that everything about the show is based on subtleties and room for interpretation to the viewer. Nothing is ever truly confirmed. And I think it even goes back to the discussion with Daphne and Cameron. Did they not hook up? And I think what Daphne was doing was, if you think about it and take a step back, I think what Daphne did to Ethan by kissing Theo James is exactly what he did with Mia when they had that crazy Molly-filled night. Like, they are completely, if that's all what really happened, they are one for one. They did the exact same thing to one another.
But and that's how relationships work. It's a point-based system, you guys. It is one for one. It is, you're right. Like, and this season overall, when I really stop and think about it, it's all about conning someone.
Yes.
And sometimes the con helps the other person. Like I'm so sorry. I'm still that person that doesn't remember their names. Just like the one prostitute that played the one sex worker that worked at that played the piano. She hooks up with the hotel manager. Yeah. And actually, that's a subtle con because she wanted to play the piano, but she also made that hotel manager's life because it made her comfortable with her sexuality. So it was a beautiful con.
Oh my God, I totally didn't even think about, because someone posted on Twitter about how this entire, to your point, it's all about scheming and conning. And I didn't even think about it from the lens of the piano player gig.
Yeah.
But you're so, oh my God, I'm sure.
And by the way, that's what I'm saying. Not all conning is bad. Sometimes conning can actually give great strength to the person being conned. Here's another question you asked. Who in this cast will be a recurring character in season 3 now that, and you guys know this, Tanya is dead? Doesn't need to just be anyone in this photo, and you'd posted a photo of the 2 couples. Who do you think will be coming back?
Oh my gosh. A lot of people, I had a lot of responses to this, and a lot of people were saying Portia or Lucia, which was kind of random. I actually people kind of shit on Portia all the time, but she's I love her. I don't know why.
Portia's Jennifer Coolidge's assistant in this, and she's amazing. She's amazing. She's so, by the way, everybody is so perfectly cast. They're so I've never seen, this is such a great cast, and they've managed to do it 2 seasons in a row, which, by the way, if you're those aren't good odds to do 2 good seasons back to back and to have the resonation that the second season did. I think the recurring, I think none of them, I think it's going to be, and this is what this will be Jennifer Coolidge's husband, Greg, because Greg will inherit her money.
Yep. Cause she's dead.
He'll go away to a White Lotus to get away from it all with his new money. Everybody's
makes
going
a
to be
lot of
dead.
sense.
And I will tell you, and I have the same thought about Yellow Jacket season 2 with somebody that's died on that.
Yeah.
I believe Jennifer Coolidge will be on White Lotus again as a dream sequence. That is
love
just
that.
something from pop culture you always know. To remember, she is dead, very, very real, very dead. But I do believe she will come back at some point. This is a So Bad It's Good promise. She will come back. But you could see Portia
I
coming
love that. I could see Portia coming back, but now that you're saying that, actually, that makes, because a lot of people were saying like, well, now Greg, he's won. He's gotten what he wanted. He's dead. He inherits the money. And I think that makes actually all the sense for it to like arc. Because I think what's interesting with like season 1 and season 2, it's, well, I guess like she was the only remaining character arc from the first season. So I guess we can keep that going through her spirit, so to speak.
Well, and also, but I mean, I don't believe that'll even be a part of her journey, because I believe it'll be somebody else's dream. Like, I don't believe it'll be like her coming from the afterlife. I believe it'll be a nightmare. But what I'm saying, like, did you watch, you guys, this, I get so pissed at talent. This Mike White, what a talent. He's the only writer on this show. Did you stay around after the credits to listen to him talk about it?
So I saw that on your story, you're like, you guys need to watch like the last 3 minutes. I didn't watch it, but I'll watch it.
Oh my God.
What went down?
Because, it's so funny how creators talk about things, because he's like, just like, oh, did the Asian character and what Daphne hook up in the woods? He's like, well, I don't know. Like, it's definitely, it could have happened. Like, he even was like, well, and because they were asking if like Theo James and Aubrey Plaza, did they only just kiss? And he goes, yeah, I think they did only just kiss. He goes, and he wasn't trying to be jokey. He goes, but it is a weird time frame. There was 10 minutes. Like, so he's like actually saying this, and he's not like messing with the audience. He goes, well, I mean, I do think that they actually just kiss. And I'm like, you're the one that created them.
Oh my God.
Like you created them.
And this is what I'm saying. It's like, it's everyone's own interpretation of how they're viewing the show, because it could go either way.
Which I love. I love things that I used to hate. Like, I wanted things that were absolute, things that you couldn't, like, I used to hate mysteries. And now I kind of like when things are open to interpretation, just like your love of your favorite character on Bravo. Season 3, you guys, he already said, I think season 3 White Lotus, like, if you consider the first season sex, the second season first season money, second season sex. He said the third season, I think we're going to explore spirituality and religion and Eastern religions.
Oh, he said that in the last part of the episode.
Oh, and he said it very absolutely. He wasn't like, he's like, that's where I think we're going to go next.
Oh my God, I love that he's already thought through this. And like,
isn't that crazy?
And Dumois wrote that it was potentially going to be in Tokyo. Do you have any information on whether it's Tokyo?
I don't have any information, but Tokyo, certain aspects of Tokyo could fall into a spiritual retreat.
Spirituality.
It could fall into that, which I would just be so happy. Will Ethan and Harper be the Daphne and Cameron of season 3 and come out as assholes? What does this mean? What is this? Okay,
because I think what's interesting with their character is at the very beginning, right? Aubrey Plaza's character was just so set on like, well, we're not like them. We've grown into wealth now. We're equally as rich as them, if not richer than them, but we'll never be that couple who lies and cheats with each other. And then all of a sudden, it's like at the very end of the episode, they realize that in order to survive in this world, they need to do exactly what Daphne and Cameron are doing to maintain happiness. It's like they have to be equally as part of the ruse as they are to live a fulfilling, happy life.
Yeah, so you see how it changes people. And what I found so fascinating is Ethan and Harper, they find their flame. This is a sexless couple almost. They find their flame by this brush with infidelity.
Yes.
This brush with, and that's where that creepy head, you guys, it's in White Lotus. They break the head. I was like, finally, I was like, why is that creepy head always there? It breaks it as he's like going down on her and like, or whatever he's doing, but I was like, isn't it, but this is why life is interesting. These things, this is not so far away from fiction. I mean, all of it put together, but these are real relationships. That's why I think it works. It's grounded in this really firm reality. And that's why I think it works. What do you think about how it shows? I posted a photo of the trio of men, the grandpa, the dad, and the son. What do you think it shows about? And I thought it was such a funny/sad moment of all three of them turning their heads at the airport for a hot girl at the very end. What do you think it says about toxic masculinity, this show, or this season in particular?
I think what I kept seeing was Bert, like the grandpa, telling Albie, like, women aren't all saints, Albie. They're just like us. And I think that's just like, if you think about it, it's kind of, well, I guess besides Greg, like Lucia was conning Albie the entire time. So he was like this.
And he seemed okay with it. He's like, I got conned. I got played.
Right. And it's almost like it really pissed me off when he went up to his dad and was like, I need 50,000 euros. And it's almost like he just felt so entitled to the money. He just actually ended up being kind of a dick. Like kind of a douchebag.
Well, but isn't that also an interesting thing? Is that, remember, in the first couple of episodes, he was the one saying, don't look at women this way. Don't do it, and to see by the end that he was very nonchalant about like, so we're all bad people. And I thought that was a very interesting thing, because you could legitimately see, if they were ever to come back, that he will have changed. This experience will have changed him, and possibly not for the better, because then he will potentially, he seemed like he was fine at the airport, but well, maybe he'll hold this against all women at this point. All women will play me, Right. And people were saying also, like, it's just a generational thing. Like, once you've experienced a taste of just like betrayal from like a woman, then you'll forever be disenchanted, similar to how his father and his grandfather were. My question to you is like, when Lucia ultimately left him at the very end, the entire time, like, she had this look in her eyes, like she really did care about him. And even when he's like, check your bank account, and she like embraced him in this big hug, you could tell she had a bit of guilt. You saw the guilt. Yeah. This is what I geek out about acting, you guys. The camera picks up thoughts behind our eyes by some weird magic. Yes. And you saw this flash of guilt.
Yes.
And part of this, by the way, is what we bring to it as an audience. We read into things because we're looking for it, because you want to believe that she would feel a little guilt. You want to believe what didn't happen that you thought would happen in White Lotus season 2.
There were a lot of people. Like, honestly, I didn't think that Lucia was going to leave him. That was actually a huge shock for me.
I know.
I thought that she was going to stay with him.
I really thought that was true. Yeah.
Right. The entire season, she actually seemed like very enamored with him. But like, I think they were giving us conflicting clues, because at the very beginning, when she first met Albie, remember they were in the ocean and Mia was like, where's your Vicodin, whatever. And he asked her, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Catania. Where are you from? I'm from Los Angeles. Oh, I've always wanted to go to Los Angeles. So they were kind of setting up the scene, like perhaps Albie's going to be her meal ticket back to the US for the first time. But it's like, she kept giving you like Easter eggs to make you think the complete opposite. And I was just like really let down by that. I think I was just really sad.
I was let down by the fact that we didn't get to have and this is, probably not the realistic conversation, and especially the way they went, but I wanted to have that conversation with them about him getting conned. I wanted to see that conversation with her of like, I'm sorry, this is just how it goes. Like, I'm like, I wanted to see that scene. I felt like we were robbed of it. Who did you think was going to get murdered in the end?
Oh my God, there were so many there. I thought that the fact that Bert, I was thinking about this morning, just when I was like making my coffee. I'm like, they kind of was like a red herring with Bert and his,
We thought he was going to die in his sleep, I think. Or
I was like, he keeps falling. He has all these accidents. Like, are they alluding to? I think they were just trying to throw us off.
And also I thought the same thing about the Asian character. I thought he might kill his wife. He might eat him alive, and he might strangle her or something.
I thought that Ethan started to become very unsettling as the episodes went on. Like, first you're kind of rooting for him, like, oh, Theo James's character's a fucking dick. He just, mimetic desire or whatever the fuck. Like, he has a right to be angry. But then as the episode kept progressing, I'm like, just all of his, and like, I thought he was such a fabulous actor, the guy who played Ethan, because everything was just not even in like vocal expression or like lines. It was in his face, and it was brewing. You could see it.
Also the couple, I'm so sorry that I keep forgetting the names, is the prosthetic dong. I'm just going to refer to Theo James. By the way, and this Theo James, I keep saying this on the show. You're such a dork. Never admit it's a prosthetic penis. You don't have to, dude. Let him think you're perfect. I was like, and then I was comforted by that he admitted he had a prosthetic. I was like, good. I hope you.
I love that you call it a prosthetic dong.
I hope that your dong is so small that you needed they asked you to do as a prosthetic dong. But anyways, his wife, Daphne, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the point, I think, from a male perspective that I'm confused on. I saw so many takes today of what a wise woman, she has the way she talked, with the Asian man character, and this of like, and Aubrey Plaza's character of like, well, you just got to accept it. What a wise, strong woman. She said so much with her eyes.
Yeah.
But to me, how I read it was like, wait, what is the message here? Like she's like the message is like get yours, but stay with this creepy dude that like she knows is like banging everybody, but she can bang people on the side too. And like, why is this a heroic character that people I saw online making her out to be?
People are claiming her to be like the breakout star of the season. She's
Well,
like
no,
the
no.
unsung
As an
hero.
actor,
Yeah.
I think she's, I mean, fuck. I mean, what a performance, what an
Amazing.
actor. Her face expresses so much, but I'm saying the character itself, why is this heroic?
I think it's more about her. Like I think it was more about when we first saw her on her screen, we're like, this girl is a dumb bitch. Like she probably doesn't vote. She doesn't read the news. She probably doesn't know who the president fucking is. Like she just came across as just very like dumb blonde-esque, but I think she was a lot smarter than the audience initially.
It's another con. It's another con.
It's another con because I think she presented this like this veneer of a woman that was not actually who she was. And I think we were all kind of rooting for someone who's in this like, I guess if you actually understood what the relationship was, it's like horrible and it's manic and it's disgusting, but really like she learns to live with it and she finds fulfillment out of that. And I think that's what people are like giving a nod to as like being heroic.
And by the way, I'm not talking about the performance. The performance is genius. Also, What a great moment from Theo James when he's the kids on his child's on the phone, he's flossing his teeth, and then he's like pissed, and then he puts on the fake veneer smile of like, hey, buddy. And I was like, that's that guy. He lives in this torture. Like, I know that guy. Putting on the fake smile. That's that guy to a T. And I was like, what a beautiful character moment. From an acting perspective, I geeked out on it so hard, you guys. I hope you liked it as well. Were you sad that Tanya, did you think Tanya was going to die? Were you sad that she died? Would you?
I think it was so on brand for her character because she's truly just like her whole character is so helpless. Like she has everyone doing everything for her because she's rich. She has assistants. She has everyone. It's like the Kardashians when they're like, I'm so relaxed. It's like, because you have literally a sea of 50 people in your hotel room, steaming, ironing, getting your food, everything. So like she's just at her core who she is so helpless. So it makes sense that she killed everyone on the boat, was able to run into safety, and she couldn't even get on a little dinghy boat to like save herself. It just feels people were actually like laughing on Reddit because they're like, it's just so on brand.
Well, Mike White said this I am confused. I was pointed out that she's wearing those heels that are strappy, but when she's found in the first episode, there's no shoes on her. So that feels like a weird moment of how do those shoes leave your body? I don't think, by the way, I think that's just, I don't think there's anything to read in there. I think it's just a lapse, but it is weird. Also, the funny thing was, I was just wondering, like, why don't you just jump in next to the boat and then climb on the boat? But you can tell Tanya's character would not think that way. Like she would try to hit the boat instead of the water.
I actually have a good question for you. So, when she found like things started to kind of come together for Tanya, like she looked at the photo, she saw Greg as the cowboy, and then she was like, for the entire time, the last episode, I'm like, oh, she's onto them. She knows. And then until the very last minute, she goes, is Greg having an affair? It's like, she's really that fucking stupid. Did you think that she knew? Because I thought she was smarter than she let on. I was like, she's a lot more lucid than she appears, but like she wasn't.
Well, what I loved and what Mike White said in this, I really want you to watch that interview at the end. It's like a quick five. But what I loved was he said, this was her her life was like this operatic ending, and she was so helpless. She needed assistance. She needed all of these things, but in the end, she stuck up for herself. She fought her way out. She won almost, but in typical Tanya fashion, she did she trips, or she dings her head and she fought, that's so interesting of somebody that so in a way he said, what a beautiful ending of she fought her way out. But I don't think
I love that.
I just love it. And I love the actor portraying Quentin of just are you blood's falling out of his mouth. And he's like, are you kidding? That's what you want to know? Is she having an affair? And I'm like, what is going on? And I thought it was so beautiful, and it was so true to the character.
So
and
true to the character.
But also I thought she was I'm sad that she's gone, but it was the right person to die because if she went into a season 3 of White Lotus, I think it would start to get a little hokey, a little been there, done that. Well, what crazy thing's gonna happen to her this time? When it's I almost feel like it can relieve the burden of her story, not burden. It was a great story, but we can explore other avenues and we can explore other things instead of how this time does she fall into the mix. Like what I trust Mike White with now more than ever, the creator, you guys, is he knows people, it feels like.
He does. I'm actually so curious from your background, like having done like acting for years and years, even before you did podcasting, like who do you think had the best performance? Like, who do you think was the strongest? That's a hard one.
You know, the Golden Globe nominations got announced today, you guys. And I will say this is like White Lotus is going to either clean up or they're going to split the votes so heavily because everybody's going to be nominated from this show that each person's going to get a little slice and it's going to go to a different show entirely in terms of the acting categories, because there is not one woman on this show that was bad. There is not one man on this show that was bad. Like, you know, it just depends on what is, you know, Jennifer Coolidge is already going to win the Emmy hands down. And that's going to be because she deserves it, but it's also going to be because she's Jennifer Coolidge. And this actually, she's going to get it. But that, I hope Daphne gets a Best Supporting Actor nomination.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to like split it up. Aubrey Plaza, by the way, I've been hot or cold on Aubrey Plaza. Like this,
me too.
This like really, I was like, damn. She's really getting, you know who I want to see her play is Joan Didion.
Oh, that would be good.
If they ever, as she gets older, I think she could knock out a Joan Didion portrayal of like The Year of Magical Thinking, which is one of my favorite books. She could knock that out of the park. I'm like, it's fun to watch actors get older and get better, you know, and I feel like that's what with her. Who do you think? Who do you think is going to get?
Oh my gosh. Something? I think to your point, like I can't even name a bad actor,
I wish
on the show.
I wish I could name somebody bad.
Who do you think? I guess turning it around. Who do you think had the weakest? I mean, I don't think anyone was bad, but who do you think like you're in an ensemble cast of, like incredible actors who are like performing at their A game? Who do you think was the weakest?
First off, I would go in so nervous to season 2 after season 1, and they ended up overperforming. The weakest, but by the way, it was just in the writing and by design. I believe was the hotel manager. I believe she, was very there was a little bit too heavy-handedness of the flirting with the female, like Rocco, you go to the beach, but then she had some of the most beautiful moments in the final couple of episodes that I was like, oh, she's amazing. Like she was, but also she has the unfair comparison of comparing to Bartlett Murray, the guy who played the hotel manager last season.
Armand.
Yeah. Has the unfair comparison of that. So that's really, but she then ended up like having great moments herself. Like everybody had these moments. And that's, to me, what I look for in TV. What are you looking forward to as we end this, we start wrapping up this conversation in 2023? What are the pop culture things that you're looking forward to? I'm looking forward to season 2 of Yellow Jackets. What are you looking forward to in terms of your tastes?
Honestly, you would love this because you're friends with them, like Vanderpump Rules. I want to see what the fuck is going on with Schwartz, with Raquel. Like, I love that Vanderpump Rules. Like, it was my reality show. Like, the early seasons of Vanderpump Rules can never be recreated because it was so raw, so real, such a dynamic cast. And then I think they lost it over the past couple of seasons. Like, I continue to watch because I'm a diehard fan, but it fell flat for me. And
Christy, don't you think we also have seasons of our own lives that fall flat? Don't you think 100%. We have like, it's like not every, and you have to give, and somebody in my DM said, and I've been thinking about it ever since, and I wish I remembered her name. She said with like Real Housewives of Miami, it's really powerful this season already. And she says, we should give every show on Bravo a 10-year break and come back. And I would be like, because it's so amazing to watch these relationships 10 years later. Wow. And I was like, that is fascinating. We'll never do that. But it is things that like certain seasons and our seasons of our own lives are not very, I mean, I've had a whole pandemic that wasn't exciting, right? Except for the podcast. So I am excited to see what they're going to do. I've got a question for you now. Actually, this is exciting. I'll make the announcement. I am going to be recapping Vanderpump Rules on the main feed. Will you come back and recap an episode with me?
I would love it.
And we'll just go hog wild on it because I would love to know more about your history with the show.
Would love it.
I know you watch Summer House, and you just said before we started that you're starting watching Summer House from the beginning. Why?
So I think I just needed like another kind of trashy TV show. What I will say is the reason actually I started watching it was because I was on a flight to Boston, and I watched season 5 because it was available on TV, and I was like, the show's fucking good. It was
great. Yeah,
pandemic
that's when it got
season
really. Yeah,
with a
that's
Luke
really
and the
good.
Hannah. So I was like,
Hannah,
oh,
yeah.
so good. So then I'm starting from the beginning. I'm at the Jordan season. Is he well?
No, but I mean, we never call that out.
He's like, but like, what is going on? He was just like, he's such a weird.
I think he's fighting internally with himself. He's fighting with
Yeah.
religion. He's fighting with trying to be a certain kind of man. And this is all just my own personal opinion, but you see somebody at war with themselves. And also if he can perfect his body and his face, everything else will fall into place.
100%.
You know?
Yeah. So I'm kind of in the throes of that right now, but yeah, Vanderpump Rules. Do you have any tea now that you're friends? Like, cause you're friends with them. So do you have like, I mean, you don't have to say it.
Yeah,
like,
no, I do.
but...
I do. Schwartz dies this season. He gets murdered. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It's a big mystery. It's going to be, we don't know who did it. And it's going to be, we find out later. It's like, no, there is some tea. I cannot say anything yet. But you know, it's very, I think we're going to get the trailer, not this week, but the week after, because we're getting the Jersey trailer as well. But like Summer House is going to be Monday night, Jersey Tuesday night, and Vanderpump Rules Wednesday night. So it is kind of stacked in Bravo in February. Like it is wild.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So do you, since you're like a Bravo like icon, do you like do you get like the record, like you get the video before they get released to commentate?
Well, this took me a very long time and I don't want, but I get premiere episodes of things. So I'll get like a week before, like I got Southern Hospitality a couple of weeks ago before it aired. Like, like they'll give it to you and then you'll request people to interview, you'll see what, they didn't do that for me for Miami because that's more Peacock than Bravo, weirdly enough. So I'm trying to work on my Peacock contact, but this took years to get to that point where it'll show up and it feels like Christmas, you guys. You're like, oh my God. And by the way, I've never, I'm one of the only people that I don't brag about it online. Like you'll see other people that get it. They're like, guess what I just got? That's why I put a joke tweet out last week that I said, I just saw the season finale of The White Lotus. And everybody's like, whoa. And then I put a dad tweet underneath it. It goes, season 1 finale. There are those people that want you to know that they have this. I never want to brag like that, but it is like, I don't get paid tons, but it is like, that's one of the coolest things.
Fucking cool.
That's ever cool. Like, I'm like, wow, you really made it. So anyways,
have you seen it, Vanderpump Rules really quickly?
No, it's not out yet. It's not out yet. Not yet, but I will let you know the moment I do. And you will come back to recap an episode with me, hopefully, if you'll agree. But what you guys did, you got a little taste of how, I mean, the information in this, like she's made me a fan. Her name is Christy. The podcast is X Knows All. Sophie Ross, our friend Sophie, was just on it. I was on an episode and she talks about these great pop culture moments. And I would start with the House of Hilton episode and it's going to blow your mind and you're going to love it. But like, this is what it is. It's all about sharing this common passion and this common love. And what I'm so excited is to watch you just keep going and getting better and better. And, like you're already great, but just to watch you a year from now and a year from now, because it's just going to be really exciting. So I'm so happy that you agreed to come on today. And I'll be very excited when you come back in February as well.
Oh my God, you're the best. It's such an honor. Like, I feel like I'm in the presence of a celeb. You literally are.
Stop. No, people are laughing. Now people are rolling their eyes. Okay. Well, how do we support you? X Knows All.
Oh, just X Knows Instagram, and
she has this cool thing on her link tree, you guys, where you can actually suggest suggestions for the show.
Oh yeah,
you can actually. I think that's really a cool. I was like, wow, I might steal that idea. I was like, that's really cool. But it'll give you all the information that you need to know. But go support. I'm telling you, you're gonna dig this, and you're gonna you're gonna eat it
up and be in my DMs. Like I respond to DMs.
Yeah. By the way, she responds to people, unlike me. So go.
You're famous. That's why you can't. Filter.
Oh my God. Okay. This is ridiculous. This is horse shit. Okay. Her name is Christy. The podcast X Knows All. Go support. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. And I'll talk to you in February.
Thank you. Bye.